I'm from New York City, creator of In Cat We Trust, and also a host and writer for Women's Wrestling Talk, number one talk show on the planet, because you know we're fabulous. But this is the Behind the Magic Woman of Color in Wrestling panel, and the goal behind this originally was just to kind of showcase women in color doing various things in wrestling, but also sharing their stories. So the wrestler, the commentator, the podcaster, the interviewer, all that stuff. And so this is the 4th time I've done this now at a different Comic-Con. And so I'm super happy to have all these ladies come to Chicago for this. And so we're gonna do an intro to everybody and kind of tell you guys what you guys do and where you guys are from.
Hello, I am, let me get this, wow.
Hello, I am Shay Sawyer.
I am also on the Women's Wrestling Talk podcast. I also do Unpopular Review, and I do have my own podcast called Hip Hop Theory. I've been in love with wrestling my entire life, and I've been in this, doing this whole podcasting thing for about, I'd say going on 2 years, so it's been a great journey, and I'm excited to be here.
How you doing, everybody? My name is Keeks. I am from Dallas, Texas, born and raised. I am with Public Enemies podcast, All Elite with Keeks. I also do various things in the Texas Indies, and that's pretty much it. I used to write. I don't currently write anymore, but I do podcasting, reviews, and just out there, in Texas Indies, though, most importantly.
Hi everyone, I'm Leslie Michelle. I'm the wrestler. Currently 18, born and raised in Chicago, and all over the Midwest.
Hello, my name is Savannah Gall. I'm originally from Cincinnati, Ohio. I'm now in Norfolk, Virginia. I'm a writer for Wrestling Republic, and I'm also a backstage interviewer and commentator on various independent promotions in the Northeast.
Okay, so ladies, my first question to you is, what was the initial factor to get you into wrestling, but what was the deciding factor to get into the jobs you guys all do in wrestling?
So what started it for me was my uncle. He was obsessed. And I'm obviously always gonna watch him. I'm a big uncle's girl, if that's a thing. I watched everything he did and I fell in love with it. I was a WCW girl starting right. Moved on to WWF, now WWE, and I just fell in love with the work. Like, there's just something different when you watch it in the ring, and it's something special. You can't really say it or think it, but you just know it makes you feel away, and that just made me feel like this has to be something I have to be a part of in some way.
Okay, what started for me, she's in the back, but my mom is a huge wrestling fan. Von Erichs is her favorite. She's in the back, so she knows. So she will watch it, and one day when I was a kid, I just started watching wrestling with her, and Dad started everything, WCW, WWF at the time, of course WWE, and then I became fans of actual wrestlers, so it just jumped around from different promotions like New Japan, and then TNA at the time, and of course AEW is my thing. But yeah, so it started off for me as a kid, and then of course I got involved in podcasting and media, and got picked up by Public Enemies to start my own with their network. So.
I started with wrestling when I was just 10 years old. A little girl was just scrolling through some channels, and my aunt comes up, she's like, pause it, because it was a wrestling channel. I'm like, why are there girls fighting? Why are there like costumes? And I saw a girl with high top Converse, short jeans, and a ribcage crop top Asian, and I fell in love with her work. She sadly retired a year later, but Charlotte came to the main roster, and I started watching more of her work. that's when I knew I wanted to be a wrestler because I'm like, Mom, I want to wrestle. She looked at me so crazy. She's like, are you okay? Like, this is not my daughter. But we started looking for wrestling schools, and all the wrestling schools were 18 and older, and I was only like 10 at the time. So I signed up for Olympic wrestling. I did it for 2 years, and then when I was 12, we found a wrestling school in Chicago. They accepted me, and from there the journey began.
So my story is actually similar to Shay's. My uncle got me into wrestling when I was 7. I watched WCW, watched Sting. Had to take a break when I joined the Navy. I went to boot camp at Great Lakes. Hooyah. Had to take a hiatus because I went on 3 deployments and it was hard for me to keep up with wrestling. A couple of my shipmates were actually in ring training. So once I got out of the Navy, I found a school in Norfolk, Virginia, trained a little bit, took a break to work on my mental health for about a couple of years, and now I'm back doing the broadcasting path.
So how has it been for you ladies? Again, I say this often as a Black woman, no matter where we are and what we're doing professionally, it's sometimes a bit harder to kind of prove yourselves, but it's also, I think, a struggle any woman of color can go through. And so how has it been as far as being a woman of color doing your job in the wrestling industry?
Well, I would say for me, since I'm still fairly new into this, there were so many, well not a lot, but there were women before me who kind of set the tone and kind of made the pathway a bit easier, because I'm sure it was not as easy for them. And so far the people I've met have been so welcoming and understanding and just like helpful, because I found the right people. You know, that's a big part. You have to find the right people who are, you know, genuine and want to see everyone of any type of color, you know, get to where they need to be. So I would say so far, because I'm still fairly into it, that everyone's been really welcoming and kind to me for the most part. So I guess I got the not so bad story.
Well, for me, it's a little bit harder if you're outspoken and you challenge the politics behind content, because it is politics. You can't say certain things to certain people. They will remember that and use that against you sometimes. Some people don't like the truth. I'm mostly known for spreading truth and honesty in what's going on. But other than that, like Shay said, if you meet the right people, it does become easier, especially those that have been in the business like 10 years, 20 years. I had the privilege of, I would say my mentor since I've been here is Cal from Black Wrestling Podcast, Doc, Miss Deborah, Shantiz, different people in the content creation cat. It's a lot of people. So most importantly is just make sure you meet the right people with the great intentions that actually cares about the content and want it to further to grow, especially for people of color like us. So I'm grateful that it is more of us out there, but we do have to work 10 times harder, 10 times, 20 times harder. If your personality is not a certain way, you're overlooked. If you're not with popular people, you're definitely going to be overlooked. So you have to be careful on who you associate with, and also pay attention to people that actually love what you're doing too. Try to blockade that out as well. So.
Well, you took the words right out of my mouth, but I grew up in a Hispanic household, so like the first thing that when I started learning about wrestling is just I started doing lucha libre, and I was taught by a bunch of lucha libre trainers. They're not really well known here, but that's when a lot of like we started bringing in seminars from people in Mexico, and I started learning and gaining more from them. People should know who this is, probably they don't. Gringo Loco, the bass god. I was taught by him, and I'm very grateful to know and have the knowledge to get to know him and get taught by him.
So, as far as me being a broadcaster, it was kind of hard stepping in. For most independent promotions, when you try to get in, they have like their set person that they want backstage. Luckily, I started with Pro Wrestling Magic in New Jersey. I'm with Capital Championship Wrestling. I'm actually, along with Katrina, we work with, the promoter is a person of color. And I mean, the first couple of months, me going in was hard. I dealt with body shaming from promoters. I dealt with favoritism, but it didn't deter me from my path. You know, I'm still here and I'm still going.
I guess I would add, just because we are, I guess, work some of the same areas, but that is definitely, I think a lot of the promotions I'm trying to get into is male oriented. It's a lot more like more males they want doing like the backstage stuff or doing a commentary or doing like ring announcing. And my voice is more softer, so ring announcing is fine for me not to do, but like I feel like I do pretty good interviews, and so that's always been something that's really, really hard in regards to like, or do you know what you're talking about? And so you get quizzed, like, well, how big of a wrestling fan you are, and name like these top 5 moments, and I'm like, dude, I've been watching wrestling since 6. So before I got into like wrestling behind like professionally, I was Shawn Michaels, like one of his biggest fans. So I know my stuff about wrestling. I feel like that's usually the hardest thing, is like you get quizzed if you're a woman. Like, do you know what you're talking about? Do you know what you're doing? Name the top 5 commentators, or who interview did this interview in WrestleMania 12, and you're like, wait, what? Like, why are we asking all of this? And so I feel like that's like the hardest thing sometimes dealing with it. And so my next question is, what is some of, it's a 2-part question, what are some of your challenges, but also some of your best moments? I feel like we need to always showcase something that made us happy in this journey, and so some of the challenges, but also some of the favorite moments you guys have so far working in the industry.
So I would just say my challenges is, I guess I went a different path. You know, a lot of people, they go to college for it and get, you know, stuff like that. And, you know, when you don't have the finances for that, you have to find another way. And so just trying to find a way into it without an unorthodox way, if you would say. I would say so far the highlight of this was when I got to interview Miss Kate. She worked in, you know, NWA and also Women's Wrestling Army, and that was just such a moment for me, because she was my first interview, and it would just make me feel like it's, you know, it's happening, and you know, the work matters. Like, even if you go out through a totally different way than everyone else, you get there if you mean it.
The biggest challenge for me, because I am a parent, availability, because I'm not able to travel or always be at the pay-per-views or at the shows. I know people want me to be in the media broadcast room, but I can't always fly out because I have 2 little ones at home. So that's really the biggest challenge. And then my favorite moment so far, just hearing wrestlers listen to your content. That is a flex to me, and it makes me happy. For example, y'all know I am a Chris Jericho stan through and through. And one promo that he did, he used my reference, and that just had me, you know, it had me all over the place. So.
One of my toughest moments or like challenges, I would say, is my health conditions. I was born with congenital hypothyroidism, and it affects my whole body. So I do have to take medications almost for the rest of my life. But I've dealt with so many other health conditions, and it hasn't really stopped me from wrestling. I continue and I continue to train, even though it's just like hard for me, because like there's times where I'm just running out of air, and then my trainers are so patient with me and they understand what's going on with me, especially Missa, since she is my trainer. But I think one of my proudest moments is being able to be here because I was actually a fan and I came to these to watch other people answer questions, and now that you guys are here to watch us answer questions about us and wrestling and how we love this so much, it's amazing.
So for me, one of my biggest challenges is I do have social anxiety. So especially when it comes to commentary and doing interviews, my anxiety kind of flares up. So the way I look at it is like you have 2-minute promos, just knock it out, get it over with. But I'm slowly getting better. One of my favorite moments, both as a writer and a broadcaster, is being able to enhance people's characters and also watching different promotions making history. For example, Pro Wrestling Vibe, which is founded by Billy Dixon, I was able to capture it from start to finish as writing, and then also being able to do backstage interviews at the last 2 shows in DC before they went on hiatus.
To add, for me, I think the challenges was like, for me, my story is a little different. I started professional part during quarantine, and so I'm a writer, I'm a fiction writer, and I also ghostwrite for people. And at the time, you're writing like happy romance stories, and then the world's kind of in shit right now. You don't really feel happy enough to kind of want to write a happy ever after. But wrestling was still there, and everybody was home, and I had a friend who wrestled, and I'm like, you want to just come talk on a podcast randomly? And it was just a very random thing that wound up being multiple podcasts of people who were stuck at home. And then that podcast led me to Tay, who was doing the Black Girl Magic show, and she said, do you want to do interviews backstage? So that was my first actual gig. And I was like, wait, me? Because there's people you could ask that's not me that know how to do this. And then that led me to getting my first job with Jersey, where it was like, you can do the interviews for our up-and-coming promotion. And then Women's Wrestling Talk, I feel like the biggest challenge is always me just doubting myself. I always second guess what I'm doing. I actually hate public speaking, and so having to be in front of a camera and talking to people and interviewing people, I don't like doing it. But now it's like second nature now, because I've been doing it now for 2 years. My favorite moments, I guess, is always knowing people know who like recognize me, and it's always weird to me if somebody's like, oh, I know you from this, or I got an interview during Grace, Medusa, Deanna Perza, Malachi Black, Buddy Mack, like the people that got into interview all over the time, Mickey James, Gail Kim, all these people that I watched on TV, that I fangirled. When I talked to Gail Kim, I needed a minute. I was like, just give you a minute to get the fan part out. And as far as like, I think these panels, when I originally pitched this for New York Comic Con, because that's where I'm from, I never thought it would have got picked. And then we wound up being the only wrestling thing happening that whole weekend. And so that meant everything. And then it got picked up by the UK MCM Birmingham Comic Con, and then LA Comic Con. And so when Chicago was like, yeah, we love this. And I'm like, to me, never would have thought that I've been able to get a panel at any Comic Con, considering I'm at a lot of cons as a fan, just here with other people bonding over the stuff, the nerdy things that we all like. And so to be here, in wrestling, just talking about wrestling or what I'm doing in wrestling, and then to be able to bring other women with me, because we're gonna come up together, that's probably my best moment, I think, because it's like mind-blowing to me, super mind-blowing. And so my next question to you guys is, what are your thoughts currently about this women of color in the industry from right now, 2023, to let's say from 5 years ago?
Well, it's definitely better. Back then, I would be frustrated because it's like, you say there was no one, because you see people online who, were doing it, and you're like, so this person wasn't someone you would never look at for this, when you watch the shows, and then seeing it's so much more of us, so much more people who, aren't the normal look, and it's beautiful to see. I'm really happy, and I just want to see more sprinkles, keep doing it more. I think it's enough for everyone to go around in different, not just interviewing, but everywhere. You know, there's room for women of color in every aspect of wrestling.
Yes, to add on to what Shay was saying, from here to 5 years ago, today it was announced that Bianca Belair has reached a year as a champion. We haven't had that ever. Like, we had Jackie and we had Jazz, and to see now we have people like Jade Cargill holding the TBS title for a long time. We have Bianca Belair, she's reached her year. Sasha Banks had the courage to follow, you know, her dream, and now she is the New Japan Women's Champion. We also have Athena, she's the ROH Women's Champion, the first Black ROH Women's Champion.
So my next question is, what do you guys hope going forward for women of color in the industry? And this is like in all aspects, you know, again, there's not too many women, and like WrestleMania weekend is here, and so we did get like some women. We got the Rhea and Charlotte match, you know, we got, you know, we're gonna have Asuka and Bianca today, and you think of Stardom, which is all women matches all the time, and so we got that, but even, that's like 1-2 matches different, let's say from 5 years. And so what do you guys want to see for in all aspects in general, like, even as a fan and working in it from the industry with regards to women of color?
I'm keeping mine short and sweet.
More love and respect behind it, that's all. That's it, that's all I have to say.
Even though we do have, the progress, colorism is still an issue. I want to see more darker toned women in broadcasting. It's lacking that. I'm not trying to offend anyone, but we do still have only white passing, you know, women of color that they do hire, and they don't hire the darker shades. So that's still an issue. So I want to see more of that break. The colorism has to stop. It's not fair because it is talented darker shade of women that can provide the same qualities, the same value, the same things that you're looking for. They do provide that. So the colorism has to stop. Another thing, it needs to be more of us running our own indies, running our own shows. You know, because sometimes, you know, we rely on men sometimes, and we need to start relying on ourselves, especially women. We have to start relying on us, because it seems like now, since men are not going to look out for the women, we need to start looking out for each other.
I think that we should also have less drama and like less negativity, and I think we should all support each other, because when, let's say one of our friends make it, we can't be jealous. We should at least be proud of them, because they probably worked so hard to get here. I know a lot of people that probably do not like me because of my age and how far I've gotten so far, but there's so many girls, so many people that should believe in themselves no matter what passion they're going go into.
I 100% agree with Keeks as far as the colorism and the broadcasting, especially with commentary. You barely see any women commentators out on the indies. So I would like to see more of that. And then as far as the women promotions, I also agree with that. We should have more women promoting or supporting the women promotions, because as far as me working where I'm working at and I'm following the social media, I'm always seeing the men pushing the promotions and all the Twitters and stuff, and I just would like to see more women supporting the women promotions.
I just need to add to what you guys said. So I do agree as far as commentary. I can probably name 5 women commentators, I think, on indies off top. And only 2 of them are, I believe they're Latina. And oh, I forgot Stephanie, because Stephanie's a commentator and she's Black, so that's 6. And then, so I would love to see more women in commentary. And I mean both play-by-play and color commentary, because there are plenty of good women play-by-play commentators. More, ring announcers, and I like that WB's has gotten better with that. We have Samantha. I can't remember her name right now in NXT. She's an amazing, yes, absolutely fantastic ring announcer. I want to see, at least with promotions, not that one women's match on the card. Because I really don't like what it's like. And when I asked this question to a promoter, the reason was because they cost more money. And I'm like, so then pay them more money. If it's that, like, if that's the reason you're not gonna make more than one women's match, that's a stupid reason, so pay them more money. But that's usually the reason why they get that one women's match on the card, or if they specifically make it a women's show, then that would be the one show we'll see, and then we won't see it again until the following year. And so you don't have to, like, all women shows are amazing, I love those, but also, we can also do this regularly, and so just put 2 to 3 women's matches on there. We don't need that, like, 3 versions of a battle royal, and y'all know what I'm talking about for good wrestling shows. We don't need all the battle royals all the time on the card, we don't need all of that, just more women in all aspects. And I feel like, and this is more for WWE, AEW, can we get 2 women writers in the room?
Yes.
So we're not seeing the same catty women storylines about like, ooh, your makeup is this way, and now we fight. Like, it's a stupid reason to fight. Like, we're not 12. So like, grown women, if you're wrestling, like, you wanna say, oh, you suck. And you're like, oh, I can tell you I don't suck, and then you want to wrestle. That's a better reason than like, ooh, you wear some eyeliner I don't particularly like, and now we fighting for it. Like, can we do better? So just get, like, this is mostly for the major promotions. I mean, I don't think indie promotions really do writing. I think they should. But for the major promotions, get some women in the room, and not a bunch of guys who's like 50 and don't know what we're fighting about, because I feel like it's just really craziness. Like, I like the Bianca Sasha storyline because it made some sense as far as what they were. It's more respecting, and it wasn't just like, oh, I don't like you. I could bring up Brandy's little Jade thing, but I won't. That's a rant for another day. So, because I hated that whole like, let me get extra ghetto now because Jade is here, and I'm like, oh, you can talk regular, and like, just like, let's keep it cute. Keep it
night.
That's all I'm saying. Like, can we just get some women writers in the room so we're not looking crazy? Because I feel like we're more than cattiness. I feel like that it shouldn't be stories where we're just catty, and so that's why we're fighting. There's more to that. So that's what I want to see going forward. And so my next question, ladies, is, and this is a little bit off of the whole women of color, because I don't always like to hear this, but for you as a fan, like, what are some like moments that made you happy? Like, things that as a fan, we all fans in here of wrestling, but what was that moment that you're like, and this is why I'm a wrestling fan? And then you will argue with 10 people as to why, because I would, but what were those moments for y'all?
So, I would say, I remember Jazz beating the life out of everyone, specifically Trish. That was always very funny to me, like, and also empowering, because we didn't see a lot of that. A lot of times women of color got the short end of the stick, especially, in WWE. So seeing her get the one-ups a lot of time on Trish was like, they're top. Like, I mean, she was the most important. It meant something to me. And I don't know why, but the Bianca-Sasha match, I didn't expect to cry. I did. I don't understand it. I'm usually not that emotional, but I was. It was important, and it meant something to me. So I would say those 2 moments really stuck out to me. Just Jazz in general. She's not a moment. She is the moment. She is the moment. So that's why I said her.
As a kid, my moment was when Chris Jericho beat The Rock and Stone Cold on the same night. As an adult, it was definitely Bianca and Sasha Banks main eventing WrestleMania. Those were the moments that, this is why I am a wrestling fan, this stuff right here.
I think, like, me meeting a lot of wrestlers, and I've met AJ Lee like twice, I've met Charlotte and Alexa Bliss. It's like going out and asking for advice on how to become a better version of yourself, a better wrestler, is amazing because you take it all in, and when it comes to wrestling, it's just like, you listen to what they told you and you express it. But also earlier, when I was with Shay and Katrina, I met Brody King and I had a fangirling moment because I am such a House of Black fanatic.
So definitely watching AJ Lee, especially watching Naomi win the championship, and also me being from Cincinnati, John Moxley, because not a lot of people from Cincinnati make it out of Cincinnati, so it's nice to see somebody actually winning.
For me, Shawn Michaels. Shawn Michaels. Like, that man was the reason I'm a fan. He was like so over the top. And now I know he was an asshole backstage, and we understand this, but he was so over the top, and it worked. And he was fine, and I was like, you know what, okay, I'm gonna have to watch you some more. And then it was Jeff Hardy. Clearly you see his pattern here. It was Jeff Hardy, crazy, jumping off ladders. And now we got Mr. Tribal Chief, because hello, again, you see him. Let's be real. As far as like initially, as being proud though, Jackie winning a hardcore title for me, because she's super badass, and I'm just like, you beat up a bunch of dudes, and she's a tiny lady, and like, I'm like 5'2", I'm really tiny, she's really tiny, and I'm like, yes sis, do what you need to do. So Jackie, obviously Sasha and Bianca, because I cried about that too, and I didn't think I was, and then I'm sitting here like, guys, like, just spin it. I was a mess. And then I want to say Sasha going to New Japan, because I'm a big New Japan fan, and I like that they're finally bringing women from Stardom over. I think that's so important, and I love Japanese style wrestling. But for her to say, you know what, F it, I'm gonna do this. This is where I want to be. And then while I didn't know she was gonna win the title quite soon, and I was like, she's Sasha, makes it make sense. I think for me, just watching somebody who has a lot of heat. A lot of people don't like Sasha for whatever reason. They don't like her, and if she says I'm leaving for this reason, they're mad. If she said she was dealing with personal problems, they were mad. And so for her to just say kind of F it and just go to New Japan, that for me was everything. So that's what made me happy to be a fan. And so my next question is, I'm good for manifestation and making good stuff happen. And so what are some goals you guys want for yourselves in the industry? Like things you want to kind of check off the list or at least make happen as one of the color industry?
Well, I definitely don't want to leave it at Mr. Kate, and I also recently got to interview Alyssa Marino from Women's Wrestling Army as well. So I just want to interview more people. I want to pick more brains, like people who I feel like have so much knowledge. I want to learn more. I also wanted to dip into commentary. That's something that I've always had in my mind. I'm like, you take it easy, because I have anxiety, and that's something it took me a long time to get over, but that's the two things like I really want to get into 100%.
Booking. I want to be a booker, but also expand in Texas Indies as well. So open the doors for others as well, new beginners, up and comers, one day. So can't say too much, but yeah.
I think more opportunities. Currently I hold 3 belts, so I want more, of course. But being able to show off all throughout the states, you know, I want to come out on Women's Wrestling Army and CCW, but I also want to become coming out on the AEW Dark and WWE or in New Japan.
So just straight to the point, I want to work GCW. I want to work a deathmatch promotion. As far as bigger promotions, I can see myself doing NWA. So, you know, as far as what I know exactly what I want, and that's the path I'm gonna go on.
Okay, no, yes. For me, I think like I'm really fortunate I've gotten to do what I do, but I would love to get to WWE, and it's just, I want to be in the writer's room. That's like, if I could just get to the writer's room and just tell them this is what we doing, because now we're going to do this better. I think the Bloodline story has been very solid overall, and I think that's been really good, solid work, but again, sometimes their stories can be very questionable, and you know how I feel about Tony Khan sometimes with his stories as well. Like, let's do better, Tony. Let's stop going to Twitter and do better. And so I want to get to a writing room at some point. I would love to help write storylines, because that is my first thing. I've always been a writer. And if I can ever just like, I have dream interviews, so like Okada, I will learn Japanese to interview him. So I would love to interview Okada. I would love to interview Bianca. I feel like I got to meet her, and it was like I was a fan, and so I was just like, she's here, she's doing happy birthday, I cried, and you know, I didn't get to do it. I would love to interview her, and Shawn Michaels. I would love to interview him and just kind of pick his brain. He's in a better space now, you know, he's not doing the extra he was doing in like the 90s, and so I would love to kind of pick his brain as far as him from wrestling to kind of now running NXT, and I think that's something he would have like a conversation about, and so that's that. So my last question for you guys before we open up to questions is, what do you ladies have going on? I feel like the floor is yours. Tell everybody what you got going on, what's coming up for you, and should they look out for anything?
Okay, so I have my podcast, the Big Pop Theory podcast. I have a new episode that comes out every Monday, and it's on Spotify. Then I also have for women's wrestling talk, I do women's wrestling army reviews, and I'm trying to get, we're trying to see if we can get more people to interview on there, you know, besides Liz Marino and, you know, Missy Kate. I want to have more people on there, and I'm so passionate about that brand. Like, they have so many talented women, and so I'm really happy that I reviewed that. And then also, I do NXT reviews as well on Women's Wrestling Talk at 7 p.m. on Thursdays, if you want to check in. And on Popular Review Tuesdays, I also do NXT reviews as well. I'm very into NXT, if you can't tell. But that's where you can catch me.
I am associated with Russell Brave in Houston, Texas. So, you know, he recently told me to start helping out with the scouting. So I will be in people DMs sooner for booking wise. But also, as far as podcasting, you can catch me on Mondays around 9 Eastern Time, 8 Central Time. Every Monday is live. AEW is basically an AEW content. So I talk about Rampage, Dynamite, or the pay-per-views. So.
Next week I'm moving to New York to wrestle in Syracuse. The week after that I'll be in northeastern Illinois. And then the week after that I'll probably be in California.
So I am very booked the whole month of April. I have Capital Championship Wrestling in Delaware, Super Crazy in New Jersey, and my home promotion, Next Up Pro in Virginia, 1CW in Virginia. That's that. And then as far as writing, I am head of Scouting Showcase. So I'll do a little scouting as well. And just to throw it out there, some names, some women of color, Avery Jacks out of Virginia, Zalika and Nat King out of New York from Creative Pro, Alexis Littlefoot out in Kentucky, a lot of up-and-coming women of color out on the indies that you guys should check out.
Yes, okay. I do a lot of stuff, and so I'm going to keep it really short. If you like, I'm a wrestling fan. I'm a big nerd as well. So if you like anime, horror movies, because I'm obsessed with horror movies and anime. On my In Cat We Trust channel, it's all that plus my wrestling interviews, and then I'm on Women's Wrestling Talk Mondays and Thursdays. I also do interviews, and if you are in the New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania area, then you might catch me on any promotion doing backstage, and that's normally what I be doing. And if you guys will have any questions, you guys can, there's a mic there, and you guys can take the floor now and give your questions if you have any.
Hello.
Hey.
Thank you so much for being here. Appreciate you all so much. You're wonderful. I'm an older brother. I have a younger sister. Her name is Nikki. She's loud, rambunctious. She's a dark-skinned Latina, Chicana, and I'm a big crybaby. So she's a mechanic, self-taught. She does all these awesome things. And growing up, representation on screen wasn't the best, especially for women of color. And I want to inspire characters. I want characters that help inspire people like my sister. That so that when she is growing up, she's not afraid to stand up for herself against the bullies, pick on her for being who she is. Who are some of your superheroes or characters from wrestling or even novels that have inspired you to be the creatives that you are?
Thank you for your question.
That was really good. I really love that. So if I can think of one wrestler, I would say AJ Lee, just because she is so. I share a lot of similarities with her. Like, she's very odd, and not in the, that's like in the best way, endearing, trust me. And she's just not afraid to be herself. And sometimes I'm afraid to be myself because I think somebody's gonna be like, this girl is weird, stop it. But that hasn't happened yet, so I'm okay. And if I can think of a character, I would say Buffy Summers from Buffy the Vampire Slayer. She is extraordinary. She raised me, okay? You know, I got all my power and all of my courage from her. And you know, obviously my mother as well, but she's not a character, she's a human. But yeah, I would say those two for sure.
For me, it was definitely Jackie, because you know Jackie is from my hometown. She's from Dallas. Hard-hitting, tough, fierce. You know, she said what was on her mind as well. And as far as comic, I'm gonna have to say Batman. Batman is mine. Self-explanatory, you know. And I was saying I'm Team Batfleck. Batfleck is my favorite. I'm sorry, man, Batfleck is my favorite. I never
Definitely Rey Mysterio, because he's really small, and you know, having to have his mask and presenting like Latino heat and being able to like represent that for me as well, it inspired me to also become a wrestler. For comics, I say Harley Quinn, because she was independent, but she also helped Joker get what he want as well.
As far as inspiration, for me, there's like a lot of elements to me. AJ Lee, if anybody read her biography, her journey, her story, her character is her mental health, like dealing with bipolar and stuff. Me being a military veteran, seeing Big Swole, who is an Air Force veteran, Trisha Dore, who's an Army veteran, doing their thing, that kind of motivated me as a Navy veteran to get out there. As far as characters, I don't know. I don't know.
Oh man.
Yeah.
As far as wrestling's is between Jackie, because again she was the first black woman. I saw AJ Lee again. She's not from New York, she's from Jersey, but she's tiny. And for me, being a tiny person is always kind of cool to see, you know, tiny women kind of do their thing. And I believe she got her WWE audition like with something broken, which is insane to me because I would be like, not today. As far as comics, Spider-Man is like, I'm from Queens, he's from Queens, he's friendly neighborhood Spider. I'm not that friendly all the time, but you know, he's the homie. And so if you want to think of somebody who's like, oh, he's helping the children, helping the old people, you know, helping everybody, then I would go with Spider-Man.
Actually, I just thought Deadpool, because he kind of does his own thing and doesn't give a F, and like that's how I go along with my journey in wrestling. I'm on my own lane, keep my head down, and yeah, I just do me.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, so wrestling's kind of nonstop, right? Especially like you could just follow WWE and it's like a full-time job, but then you add in AEW and New Japan, and especially being women in this media, but also women of color in this media, I feel like there is probably a lot of pressure to, like you said earlier, show your knowledge over and over and over again. I just was wondering if you guys could talk a little about burnout when it comes to like creating, especially like it's just so much all the time, and you want to grow and you want to create, but it is like I feel like a real delicate balance. Even just being a wrestling fan, it's like, man, it's Monday night again. Like that's crazy. But like trying to grow your empire, grow your like career, but also like have a life, have children, and wrestling is great, but it's like a multiverse. So I was just wondering about like how you balance and stuff, and burnout and things like that.
I'm going to start only because I just dealt with the burnout. So I'm a big New Japan fan, you know, if you're in America, the time is like 2 a.m.
Yeah.
And so you're gonna stay and watch live and now you're tired. I'm also a mom. And so I always make a joke, like, I don't know how I do half the stuff I do because the age ranges is like from 16 to 9. And so it's like, I have a teen who wants to do like 20 million things. And then I have a 9-year-old who's like, Mom, don't leave me ever. And so it's like, I can never do anything. And at one point, I think at the end of last year, I did kind of burn like bad. I just stopped. I took a week and I was like, I'm not doing anything. Wrestling, I'm not even gonna turn wrestling on. I say the best thing for me was to, as much as we would love to watch every wrestling show we possibly could, because we're talking main, and then there's also all the indie shows, and if they're on IWTV or Title Match or a fight, well now how else are you gonna fit that in your schedule as well? And so I always say you take a day, if it's even a weekend, and just do something that's not wrestling related. It can be whatever it is. If you need to have a drink, go to brunch, you know, go to an escape room, whatever it is that make you feel some sort of, do that, because I had to learn that. I burned it bad, and then I was like contemplating, like, oh, I can be good now. I did my Comic-Con panel. I don't need to do anything else because it was so much, and I was so like kind of pulled. And this is on top of my regular job, and then also being a mom. And so I always take a moment, especially, and unfortunately, like, you love wrestling and you love wrestling fans, but sometimes it's very toxic. Online wrestling fans are even worse. And so I feel like if you need to, like, no social media, take the day, no social media, no wrestling, do something that will make you happy that's not wrestling. And whatever that is, and just kind of decompress and get yourself back in a space. And then go back to it and you're more refreshed and rejuvenated, because I do that often where I'm like, I'm doing all of these things, to say yes to all these things, and now I'm tired and I'm stressed and I'm like, oh God, I'm about to quit. And so that's just like, I think for me, that's what I do.
So for me, it took me a long time to even get to this because I do deal with depression, and that's been something that kept me from, it was a lot of self-doubt. Like, does anyone even hear what I have to say? Like, honestly, that would be in my head. And then when I finally did it, the burnout for me was just like, sometimes people can be mean. If you don't say the thing that they want to hear, they will say the worst things to you, and they don't care. And it's always a burner account, so it's like, for God's sake, I can't even come back at you. I don't know what you look like. This is wrong. But yeah, for me, I just kind of deal with it by, I'll take a step back, and it'll be frustrating because people will be like, oh, you want to do this, you want to do that, and I'm like, I want to, but if I do one more thing, I will literally, my brain will explode. So I just watch a lot of Love Island, I'll tell you. I will just be like, you know what, this week I'm not doing it, and I will watch Love Island that whole week, and I will be better. So that's kind of how I deal with my burnout, honestly.
Most of the time, if I feel like I'm getting a burnout, sometimes my mom is good at giving me a reality check. Hey, that wrestling gonna always be there. You can go outside, as they say, touch grass. So that, and also what Kata said, sometimes you have to take a day, but also it's important because you want to be consistent.
Yeah.
Because if you're not consistent, then that's when you start to lose the attractions that you had. So. You want to have a good balance. I would say my gateway is, of course, my kids, and of course, if I have outside things going on. But I love binge watching things, Marvel related, DC related, Snowfall. I have different things that I can watch, but I also do take a day, just like and I'm grateful to have Public Enemies, because I'll let them know, look, Graham, I'm not gonna do it Monday, I need a break. Like I told him this time, Monday is no show, because I'm in Chicago, I have no show. So I'm grateful that I have a network that, hey, if you need the time, let us know, so that way, you know.
So I kind of basically have no breaks at all. Being able to have to wake up at 6 in the morning to get ready for school, and then come home, do homework, and then I have to go train. It's a repeated cycle every day, and if I don't have training because of something, I have to go to the gym because I feel like I am unmotivated if I don't do something like my regular everyday training. And during the weekends, I have no days off. I'm here, I'm there. It's chaotic.
So, like Shay, I kind of deal with depression and anxiety as well. I had to take, as a writer, take a few months off. I had writer's block, like really, really bad. So I just focused on the on-camera stuff. And then what got me back into writing again, Women's History Month, and seeing my peers achieve like so many things, like I had to write about them. And then like as far as my balance, I am a single mom as well, so luckily I do have a village with my parents. I also deal with imposter syndrome, so I have a group of friends outside of wrestling that I can get their perspective on like how I'm doing and everything, and that'll like kind of have me refocus and charge harder. So.
That was a good question.
Great question, thank you. Any more questions?
I got a question. From you all are fans first, pretty much. What major promotion you think right now is doing the best representing women of color?
Impact.
Impact.
I feel like they're a bit ahead, and I would say Stardom, and I know a lot of people don't know Stardom because again, it's a Japanese promotion. The time is really off if you're here, but I think they're really good. If you're seeing strong style wrestling, Stardom. But as far as women in America, it's Impact. I felt like they were a bit ahead anyway with the Knockouts division. And while it's nice to kind of see AEW and WWE taking suits slowly but surely, Impact has always been a bit ahead with kind of letting the women do their thing. So for me, it's Impact.
Yeah, Impact.
Yeah.
Yes. I would add NXT a little bit too.
Yes.
NXT too.
Yes.
All right, thank you so much.
Hello. So, as a Pacific Islander, growing up, I didn't see a lot of representation in media, like ever, until I found wrestling, where Pacific Islanders were a big part of the whole story, from the NOI family and everybody, and I thought it was great. So seeing representation like that was really powerful. But then seeing a lot of the bigger promotions take Asian and Pacific Islander people and make stereotypical moments, like tie and Val Venus and stuff like that. So I was just wondering, we've talked a lot about some inspiring moments that were positive, but what were some moments in wrestling that inspired you to be like, that's messed up and I'm gonna do it better,
Good question.
I always think of Crime Time.
Yes.
Because it was just the most ridiculous, stereotypical, like two black guys from the, they just kept saying they were from the South, like, they were supposed to just do crime, and I'm like, of all the things black people could do, why are they called Crime Time? I hated that, like, the level of hate, I hated that so much. And that's part of other field. I feel like Asian characters in general usually get really bad stereotypes in wrestling, which I don't like. I can't, is his name Akira? The one yeah, the one who was like, just like fighting off like ninjas, and I'm like, but why are we doing this in wrestling? Like, stop, like, as a black woman, again, it's nice to see somebody like Bianca be herself. Somebody who's never didn't want to do wrestling at first. It was kind of like, let's just see if this will work, and now look at her. And so I feel like, let people be authentically them. And if they're a nerd, let them be a nerd. If they're like super tough, let them be super tough. If they can kick all the ass, let them do that. And not put everybody in boxes. I hate boxes, but specifically people of color, because I feel like wrestling is so bad with like making people, it's always like, let's put this guy in a turban. Let's put this guy, he don't speak English well. Let's make the girl, like the black girl, popping gum, go there like she's ready to scrap. Like, it's always this really like ridiculous. And I'm not saying those are wrong, because if those people exist, they exist. But I feel like if you're putting yourself in a platform where people are watching, then showcase better things as well. Like, there are other, we black people don't fit in the box, Asian people don't fit in the box, Latina people do not fit in the box. We're different parts of that. That's one part of us. Like, it's our ethnicity, it's our culture, but we're also many things. And I feel like wrestling just needs to do that better in general. I feel like there's way too many for me. Like, WWE is a culprit. Like, they are like a #1 culprit of doing those type of really ridiculous stereotypical things.
Also, to turn it to a positive, like, I just want to point out the fact when Naomi returned to WWE in the Royal Rumble and she wore her natural hair out, like, that was a pivotal moment, especially for women of color, like being able to be themselves.
I want to say, for me, and still to this day, and I hate it always resurfaces every single time, the promo Triple H did on Booker T.
Oh, man.
It still hurts to this day because that's what they think of us in wrestling in general, period. It was true. It was, and he said it was so much confidence because, you know, I hated that. So still to this day, I hate to see that clip, and they bring it up every single time, but that clip, it just touches my soul because I'm like, that's how they think of us anyway. When he told him, what did he say? You're an entertainer, go ahead and entertain me. Do the spin-a-rooney. That's what you're here for. You're an entertainer, guys like you. Yeah. So that is one of the ones that I hate. But I do like what Savannah said with the natural hair when Naomi did that was a moment too.
She took what I was gonna say crime time. She already stole it from me. So I'm gonna no, I say crime time.
So it is now 1:58, so he just told us it is time. He gave us the sign back there. So I just do want to thank every single one of you. Again, when I first pitched this in New York, I never would have thought I would have been traveling doing this panel anywhere else outside of New York. And so for you guys coming here on the WrestleMania weekend to sit and talk to us and listen to us, tell us our stories, I appreciate you guys so much, you have no idea. So thank you so much for coming for us. Thank you, ladies, for coming on. It took us some time to get to Chicago. We got stranded in Cleveland, and so we made it. Okay, we had a lift from Cleveland to get to Chicago. It was insane. 5-hour car trip from a lift. Lady was cool. Danielle, wherever you are, sis, thank you. Just again, we appreciate you guys so much for just listening to us. And I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your WrestleMania Sunday, and hopefully women wins. Because yeah, I just had to throw that in there, I'm sorry. But thank you guys so much, and thank you for your questions, they were great questions, thank you.
Okay. My poor little body.